find out if there are opportunities for innovation in district offices.
Okay.
So my first question is, what are the main priorities and processes of your office?
Okay. I like to keep things simple. Granted, I'm simplifying quite a bit. The district office, mind you, this is, and I emphasize district. We have two responsibilities. We do outreach, which is essentially letting people in our district know what the congressman and Congress is doing, and then vice versa, uh, hear what's going on in the district, and then report back to the congressman, and kind of be his eyes and ears on the ground. So that's outreach. And that could translate into a multitude of duties, but that's pretty much in a nutshell. But the second one is casework, which is where our office helps people in our district with individual one-on-one assistance with anything that has to do with the federal government, be it immigration issues, Social Security, passports, VA benefits, anything that has to do with the federal government, we try to assist. And that is more one-on-one, confidential type of work. So those are the two main things that we do.
When you're talking about, say, casework, how does that get done? So can you take me through like the most typical example of casework?
Well, first off, casework is not always. I mean, we don't have like a magic wand that says, "Hey, can somebody go to the congressman's office and then he'll clear this for you and you're done." That's not the way it works. Um, People come to us when they have help, when they need help. Say, for example, their Social Security payments have stopped, or something happened to their Social Security that they don't understand. So they come to our office and they ask our office. They come to our office, they call us, and then we in turn ask them to fill out a form, which gives us permission to work on their case because there's a lot of sensitive information, i.e., Social Security numbers, addresses, all that stuff. And then once they give us that permission and they let us know what the problem is and what they want us to do, we then have staff that looks into it and does what we call a congressional inquiry. For example, somebody's check hasn't come in for a while, Social Security check. They come to us, they do what I just told you what happened, and then we do an inquiry meeting. We will call Social Security Administration on behalf of the constituent and say, hey, what's going on this? Now, sometimes they come back with an answer that the constituent may not like. For example, well, we found out that he's not of age to be receiving Social Security. So that would be what we would call a negative outcome, but we got to the bottom of what the situation was. The biggest casework factor that we have here is immigration. Immigration status. For example, people wanting to, having questions about, what is actually the law. Like, for example, you have a non-documented person here, comes to our office because they hear all these things on TV. They can't quite really put it together, and then they explain to us what their status is and what their situation is. We go through that same situation, the forms or the consent form and all that good stuff, and then we either we make inquiries through the UCIS with the Customs and Immigration Services, or we direct them we either give them guidance or we just give recommendations. We are not an attorney. We do not give legal advice. But for example, let's say yesterday I had this guy. They come in to our and bear with me here. This is all connected. Yesterday, I don't remember when was it? No, Monday. The congressman and I went to a store, to a butcher shop, because the congressman was going to go back to D.C. and he wanted to buy some stuff to take back home that is not found in D.C. The butcher told him, hey, I Congressman, I hear you deal with immigration issues. Can you help me out? And then the congressman, without really knowing what the details were, just gave him my business card. 2 days later, he shows up. Yesterday, he shows up to my office saying, "Hey, I'm the butcher. Can you help me?" So then he steps into my office. We talk. I find out that he's undocumented, but that his grandfather was an American citizen. Can his grandfather petition? Can he get an application for residency? Well, first he said, "Can I get an application for citizenship based on my grandfather's citizenship?" Long story short, I find out that his grandfather passed away, so the answer is no. Even if his grandfather was alive, he would not be able to petition him for citizenship. He would petition him for residency, which is a different status. And then after he gets residency, he can then, after 5 years, he can apply for citizenship. Now, I also found out that his mother is a permanent resident. She's been a permanent resident for 1 year. So then I had told him she has to wait 4 years as a permanent resident so she can apply for her citizenship. Once she gets her citizenship, she can petition the son, meaning him. Now, there was a third option. I also found out that he has 2 children that were born in the United States, so therefore they're American citizens. So the law states that those children can petition their parents after they become 21 years old. So I told him all of that. Now, this is all rules and regulations that the INS puts, and we just relate them to them because there's a lot of confusion. Now, granted, every person's case is different. Doesn't matter who they are. There's certain circumstances, scenarios, statuses. And so we have staff that is capable of either finding out what is really the case and then trying to get some sort of result.
Yeah, and thank you. That was a really powerful example because it really shows the minutia of detail that you really need to get it in each particular case.
Yeah. So the thing is about finding. It's not about finding angles or loopholes or whatever the case may be. It's finding what is the law and how does it apply to you.
Mm-hmm. And before you said they mentioned a forum so you can work with them. Is there any forum where they give information or summary of the case where, it can possibly expedite the casework so you can get a lot of general questions out of the way?
We have, and we're planning several, we have what we call Citizenship Day, which is a day that our office coordinates everything under one roof, where we do a press release, we do social media, we do whatever, beat the drum down the street, whatever, to get people to one place where we would gather up not necessarily our staff but other volunteers and organizations, where the people can come in and have questions about their immigration status, and then if they qualify for citizenship, we have people that will help them out, fill out their application form, have people that will help them, have a funding agency like a bank or a credit union that will process their money order, because you got to pay, once you apply. Also a fingerprinting entity, because you need to provide fingerprints, and an attorney for some sort of legal help. So it's sort of like a one day, one stop for all of that, so that at the end of the day, the person has that application for citizenship packet in their hands, and they submit it, they turn it in. At the beginning of the day, they didn't come in with anything. At the end of the day, they have all this stuff, which usually takes all the running around. Sometimes it takes months, and then depending on the impetus and the determination or lack of determination of the individual, it takes years.
Wow.
It's just human nature. Some people say, "Oh man, I gotta get my citizenship." All right, cool. Where do I get the application? I gotta save up for the money. Oh, now I gotta get fingerprinted. Oh, now I'd like to get some legal advice because my situation is X, Y, and Z. So those are all, if you really take them one at a time, they're pretty deep,
Yeah, yeah, and I assume the work is it's so that by centralizing in that event you're doing, you're really expediting a bunch of the processes, which is really useful for all these people and for the office.
Now I'll be honest with you. We centralize those events, and we've done several of them. We've done many of them throughout the years. We're going to do a couple of them this year. They're very labor intensive on our end, and that's fine. We don't mind that, but we find out that our numbers don't jump up. If you want to talk about number of people helped, our numbers really don't jump up all that much. Our main base is having our office open Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, and having these caseworkers here all the time and having people come in. We have almost 1,000 cases per year, and on a good citizenship day, we will have. If you have 250 people come in, which is a lot, because remember you have to talk to each and every one of them. If we get 85 people with a packet at the end of the day, that's a good day.
Mm.
So,
Wow.
but we spent like almost a month coordinating that day, and you get 85. Whereas year round, if we didn't have any, we would have about 1,000, maybe more.
Mm.
Follow me? But we still do it because people feel comfortable in us having it, and it's part. That's when casework kind of reaches into outreach. There's a press release involved. It's a call for general public as opposed to just one-on-one. It will end up being a one-on-one individual attention, but the community knows that our office is there and it's doing something.
Mm-hmm. And do you? It seems that you're processing so much. And what software do you currently use to kind of process or use in the office right now for your work?
Well, for casework, let me ask real quick. Hold on for a second, okay?
Okay.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello. I didn't want to get it wrong because we've had several throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
It's called iConstituent.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and we've had so many over the years. There is, granted, we're one office in Congress. There's 435 of us. So there's 435 different members using, I don't know if it's 435 different programs, but there's a lot of vendors and companies on the Hill vying to sell their products, saying our product does X, Y, and Z. And what we look for is basically electronic filing of all documents, everything. Not just documents, but actions. For example, if so-and-so calls, we would document it there, and then we could. We always have an electronic record of everything that we did. It'll show us history. John Jones came in on July 5th. He did that. He wanted this. On July 8th, we called him back. On July 10th, we sent him a letter. On July 24th, his case was resolved.
Mm-hmm. And
we have notes, actions, all that stuff.
That's really cool.
And we attach. It's an electronic file, and we attach. There's many different attachments to it. There's forms. This is the letter that he got from immigration. This is his appeal. These are are the photos that he submitted. These are the receipts this person submitted. All that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And so you're talking about when you bring on a software and that you've had many. How does that happen? If you feel dissatisfied with the software, do you do research and find a new one, or are people just always selling to you?
They're always selling to us on the hill.
Okay, that makes
They're
sense.
they're always selling.
And what are the main kind of bottlenecks of your office?
The bottlenecks is usually streams of information.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that not because we are unorganized, but because, or any office would be unorganized, but because we know that we deal with human nature. For example, the person calls and asks for something, and that's why I brought up the notion that if they get an answer they didn't like, they'll wait a few days and call and ask for somebody else and start another case through somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Now, usually and sometimes they're sly enough to use a different name, because if John Jones came in and got a negative answer, and then John Jones came in 4 days later, would talk to somebody else, then we would we would search John Jones and he'd say, hey, dude, you came in like 3 days ago, and the answer's not going to change. But they use different names, or they work with another agency or organization and try to see which one can help them better. Now, sometimes that leads to disasters because they don't exactly replicate the same information that they give to us to other people. So then, for example, passport agencies may think are two different cases. Deny one and approve one, and don't know which one is the real one.
Mm.
Those are the bottlenecks, and so we don't want to be bureaucratic, but we need to do things like, especially when we're dealing with a human element, but we need to have our weekly phone calls with Washington, D.C. office. We need to have our monthly staff meeting here and talk about issues. We need to talk to each other on the outreach team and on the casework team. We need to write reports at the end of each quarter. All of that. It must be done in order for us not to duplicate too much of our efforts.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I'll just wrap up with my final question.
Sure.
So as you know, I'm looking for innovations in the office. Do you see any opportunity for innovation, or are there any ideas you would have for district office for a product that would make life easier for you guys?
Yeah, I would like to see a consolidation of social media usages.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's quite a net to cast because each member uses things differently. If we put up something in our if we put out a press release on our website, and websites we know are becoming obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
Does it automatically go on to Facebook? Does the quote actually get sent out on, as a tweet, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera?
Mm-hmm.
Those type. I know that those tools already exist, but I think, and I will even simplify it: consolidation of social media for dummies. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind, the average age of a member of Congress is 50 years or older.
It's true.
Okay, their grasp, or even if they do grasp it, their tendency or their familiarity or comfortableness, I would say, for lack of a better term, with social media is subpar at best. So, for example, my boss doesn't even have an email account. He's just old school. And when people ask me, "What can I email the congressman?" Well, he doesn't have one. Send it to me, and they get frustrated. And vice versa, the young person doesn't understand that my boss does not have an email address.
Yeah.
And I'm sometimes amazed by how the young person is perplexed by the fact. Well, send it to me and I'll make sure he sees it.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, why do I got to do that? It doesn't matter why. Just do it. It'll happen. So those, I think that's the major, as far as technology and innovation is concerned. Now, that technology and innovation doesn't necessarily have to come with the grasp of, or educating the grasp of social media. I think even like seminars would be good for members of Congress and senior staff.
Mm-hmm.
What does this do? How does it work? And if I press this in the middle of the night, what will happen?
Yeah.
See, so I don't think you even have to let people know, the bells and whistles, how you can post something or, share something or do something. I think if members of Congress understood what it was, and, I'd be willing to tell you that, for example, Trump knows tweets.
Mm-hmm.
And most people claim they do, but they don't read his tweets. They just read the tweets that were repeated by news organizations.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm willing to tell you that the majority of the public said, if you hear on whatever news channel, Trump said this, he tweeted this. Most don't go in there to see if it's true or not, because they don't know how to. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
They just take it for granted that, hey, that's what he said. And there you go. So I think an understanding from it, and not just members of Congress, but their senior staff. I think that, and I actually probably even gave you a title there, Social Media for Dummies, Spam.
Mm-hmm.
It's a seminar. It's not, I'm not selling you gadgets. I'm not selling you how to open up your Facebook account. I'm telling you what the world means, what that world means. It's a little briefing. It's a little 2-hour briefing. That would be super helpful. Now, somebody may have already been used to the punch as we speak. They may have these forums in the Democratic caucus on the Hill or the Republican caucus. They may have. If I were them, I'd be doing all these workshops all the time.
Yeah, and it's just kind of about learning the space to see if there's an opportunity. That was kind of an eye-opening experience for me. I didn't realize when you're talking about social media literacy, and the Congress people have to run their own social accounts, because it's coming from them.
Well, think about it. How many members of Congress have gotten into trouble because of social media? I mean, it's brought down careers.
Yeah.
Weiner being the first idiot that I can think of. Something as simple as a text. Texting, all that. So what happens to it? There's this talk about which one is it? Instagram that it erases after you view it. Yeah, really? I don't know. Does it go somewhere? Who can trace it? And then there's also the question of if the congressman or the member or their staff is posting something, is it something that can be done on congressional equipment? Does it have to be their own personal? Because there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
We, for example, in our offices, we are not allowed to do anything that is not related to congressional business on congressional time or congressional equipment. Mm-hmm. That includes cell phones, computers, laptops, offices, everything. So I cannot, in my desk, go through, my own personal email account with my office computer.
Yeah. That makes
sense. It's a good law. I mean,
mm-hmm.
Some people say it's kind of strict. It's too strict or limiting. But I think once you start thinking about it, it's like it can be abused really easily.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's only becoming more important. And since it's an older generation, it's harder and harder to keep track with all those changes that are coming up.
Yeah.
So that's all I don't want to take up too much of your time. You've helped me so much, but I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to talk to me and answer all my
Okay.
questions
Well,
about this
I
stuff.
hope it helped.
Yeah,